Furness Abbey is a hugely significant and important abbey which was extremely wealthy, politically important and influential in its day. It's thought to be the second only to Fountains in Yorkshire, and indeed they were great rivals. It was established in 1127 by monks from Savigny-le-Vieux in France, who had first settled at Tulketh near Preston. Stephen, Count of Mortain and Boulogne, granted land in Furness to the order, and the monks settled in Beaconsgill, later known as the Vale of Nightshade. The first abbey was built in the Norman Romanesque style, and elements of this can still be seen if one knows where to look. The Savignac order was absorbed in 1147 by the Cistercians, another French order who followed the rule of St Benedict. The abbot of Furness had objected but finally had to capitulate. A programme of rebuilding began and the Savignac architecture was almost totally eradicated. The original curved apse of the Romanesque church was rediscovered in 2010 during work to stabilise the presbytery. The abbey grew in wealth and power over the coming centuries, and they were granted and bequeathed huge tracts of lands by donors who wanted to assure that prayers would be said for their souls in perpetuity. The abbey made its wealth from the wool trade, salt and land management, at which they were very adept. Furness was controlled and managed by the monks, and at one point up to 100 choir monks ran the lucrative business. But it was the 250 lay brothers who created the wealth, working the land, forests and fisheries. They held holy orders but were able to avoid some of the services to allow them to work manually each day. The lay brother system fell into disuse and the peasants took over the farms and the land, paying their rent in kind, produce and boon work. During this time of prosperity, the abbey grew in size and the building continued up until 1500 when the bell tower was rebuilt. The abbey is built from red sandstone quarried from the valley and has 2 watercourses engineered and managed by the monks. The monks appear to have fulfilled their charitable role well and were known for their generous food donations to the poor. At the dissolution, they still cared for 9 destitute widows. Of course, there were examples of privilege and abuse, Alexander Bank, the penultimate abbot, being one. He loved hunting and turned out the villagers of Selagarth in around 1516 to create a deer park. The peasants litigated against this action, but they still had to relocate to new barns. The last days of the abbey arrived in the 1530s. Roger Peel, the last abbot, was appointed. The abbey was the first large abbey to be marked for dissolution, and the abbot, prior and remaining 28 monks signed the deed of surrender on the 9th of April 1537 in the chapter house. The monks were given a small pension and the abbot became vicar of Dalton. The buildings were dismantled and anything of worth sold, and the land and property bought by the Preston family, who later built a manor house on the grounds. Furness Abbey is now under the guardianship of English Heritage and can be visited throughout the year.